Most guitarists think strumming is just moving your hand up and down. That's like saying driving a car is just pushing pedals. We miss the bits in between that make the song actually work. Truth is, strumming makes up only half your sound, and if you don't know how to read and lock in rhythms, your songs will never really begin to flow smoothly. This training was originally a private masterclass for members, and today I'm pulling it from the vault to show you a step-by-step system to read, understand, and play strum patterns that actually sound like the song. Let's get into it. Hey there, welcome along to this strumming masterclass. So here's what we got in store today. We got strumming patterns made simple. This is a guide to reading, understanding, and playing rhythms on guitar. And I want to start by just saying welcome. Whether you're at the beginning stages of guitar or you've been playing a couple of years, there's something in here for everybody, and it's taught step by step so that you're not left wondering what to do next. So this is for you today if you're bored of playing the same strum pattern for every song you're doing. If you play strum patterns, but you know deep down that it's not the one that's reading on the song, that you might have problems remembering strum patterns you've already learned. I remember when I started guitar, I'd learn a strum pattern and then I'd sit down an hour later and I'd kind of play it and go, is that a different song or which one is it? So if that's ever happened to you, this is for you. Also, it's for you if you can play by ear, no problem, but if you found notation like music written online and you look at it and you go, what is that? But you can't find a source by ear. Perhaps you're wondering where to find strumming patterns for songs. We're going to cover that as well today. And if you generally if you like to geek out on music theory and you want to improve it, or if you want to dip your toes in it, this is for you as well. Also, if you get mixed up playing your strum patterns, if you've learned like maybe 5 of them, and not yet can you play them like on demand, okay? And then maybe you might get confused with longer strum patterns, ones that go on for a longer length of time, or that are more complicated and you don't know perhaps how to break them down and learn them and practice them. Okay, and of course, nobody's not all one of everything. If you're a mix of any of the above, you're in the right place. Now, by the end of this masterclass, my hope is that you'll have the mindset, the musicality, and all the moving pieces to put in place to look at a strum pattern in writing and without having to hear it, be able to, first of all, understand how to read it. So if it's on a page, if it's on a page that you could just read it, understand it, like what each of the rhythm values are, how to count it, how to apply it in your playing, and most of all, how to integrate it into what you can do already. Because I'm not here today to change how you're going to do everything. I'm here to add in another approach to reading rhythms or another approach to playing rhythms on guitar. Now, why does strumming matter so much? Well, strumming, when you think about it, strumming makes up 50% of your playing power. If we think about our fretboard hand and our strumming hand, 50-50. And if you think of it like an engine in a car, I heard this once off a teacher online, I forget their name, but it was really good. They're saying it's got to be reliable, steady, and you need to know how to fix it or where to go to fix it. I definitely don't know how to fix an engine in order to keep things running smoothly. So your strumming has got to be reliable and steady. And for example, you could have a nice car, nice guitar, a really great guitar, the best of strings. You could have a map and directions. You could have bought all the books, gotten all the courses, all the memberships of where to go on your journey. That's your learning path. But if the engine, your strumming, isn't working, there's going to be breakdowns and costs along the way. Okay, so that's a previous student who took this master. No, I'm joking. How to get the most out of this masterclass. So I'm going to share a few pieces about that. The first thing I'd share is just watch it first. Get a general overview of everything and perhaps take some notes. So if you want to run now and pause this and grab a notepad, feel free. And if you're back or if you're still here, the next thing I'd say is after you've watched it once, re-watch it and take some notes. The reason it's so important to re-watch and take some more notes is it's like, do you know a movie? I remember when I was younger, I used to watch some movies and I'd watch them again and again and again and again. I remember watching Mrs. Doubtfire and the second time spotted different things or laughed at different things. The third time in one of the park scenes, noticed somebody in the background
doing something. You know what I mean? Like, the more you take in the info, the more you take in what you already have, but then the brain kind of goes looking for other things. So with this, now I'm not saying to watch this like a ton over and over, but what I am saying is watch it once, get the general notes. Number 2, just rewatch it and see what else pops up for you. So on to the next part. This is a new thing using slides, so forgive me if this is a bit messy. Take action on what you've learned. Okay, it'll be one thing to be able to say it, it'll be another thing to apply it and play it. So be sure, no matter, just take the first simple action, and I do have a worksheet that goes with this masterclass, so I'll give you your step-by-step actions. Now, the single most important thing about today, ask. Okay, basically, whatever you're learning, if you're stuck, please just ask. Ask another member, ask me in the community. We're all here to help. So if there's anything that kind of you're a bit wondering about what to do, like there was a time before we were on a camper van trip around Europe, me and some friends, and we were kind of lost. We had a general idea, and we basically drove an hour. Like, we kept driving, and we could have stopped and asked somebody for help, and we were like, no, that'll stop us now, we're nearly there, we think we're right. And if we'd just taken 2 minutes, we just saved ourselves. It was actually 2 hours because we went an hour the wrong way. I had to go back. So it won't be that drastic on guitar. However, if there's anything that you're unsure of, ask, so that at least when you're playing and putting it into practice, you're going to move forward and you're going the right direction. Okay, so we all have to start somewhere. This is where I'm going to share a bit about how music theory started out on my YouTube channel. So this was one of the first lessons I put up. It was like 6 years ago. And at the time I hadn't realized it, but I was teaching mostly by ear. It was the way I was taught, it was the way I played, and I kind of wasn't aware of the importance of reading. So I put up the video, got some messages, people going, can you write this out? And I sat down and I was like, uh-oh. And literally this is what I produced 6 years ago. The notation's wrong. The rhythms aren't written out fully correctly. So, you know, we all start somewhere. And I was playing a solid probably 15 years, and that's what I produced. So you're way ahead of the game here with what we're going to cover today. And then evolved a bit, you know, that was another video. And I was going through this whole Throwback Thursday thing. You see, these lessons are all old songs. Can't help a bit of Nelly. But again, the notations, I was Googling, I was looking up stuff going, oh, how do I do this? How do you join these two together? And see the rhythm values. Okay. And getting comments, people going, that isn't correct. That's incorrect. So I really had to like double down and start improving my writing skills. So all that to say, we all have to start somewhere on guitar. Now, there are 3 ways to learn a strum pattern. The first way you can see is by ear. That'll be the one you're probably most familiar with. That's where, you know, if you come into a session and or somebody shows you something, and for example, I've done this in lessons, I do this in videos, where somebody might go, this is how it goes. And you're like, oh, cool. And you play it, right? So that's by ear. And each of these methods, there's 3 methods, and each of them has a light side and a shadow side. Like, think pros and cons. Let's say benefits and drawbacks. So the first thing I'll say is that the light side, the good thing about playing by ear, it's used in most jamming and play along sessions. And it's the fastest to do when you can do it. Somebody plays, you play. The drawback of that is the ear is a limited bandwidth. So it's one thing if you sit in or if you're at a lesson and somebody goes, yeah, this is how it goes. They go. It's a whole other thing if somebody goes. You know what I mean? That's where the ear, it's like it has a buffer, and the ear can only take in so much before it goes, what is this? And your ear is also based on previous playing experience. So whatever rhythms you've learned, your ear is most adept at figuring that out, at making sense of it. So if I play a rhythm that you've never, like for example, if I do this rhythm here, if I go, There's a bit of a Wonderwall vibe to that if you didn't notice. So if you've already played that song, you'll be much more likely to grasp onto it quicker, okay? But then the flip side is if you don't have that experience, then you're kind of at square one going, how does that go? Right, so that's by ear. The other one is by example. By example is where you learn to mirror other teachers' styles. What I mean by that is you could look up a tutorial online, like any of the YouTube channels, myself included, and they teach it to you. We go down, 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 up, down. So now instead of just hearing it, you're seeing it, you're perhaps being told it, and you now have the visual and the ear. So you've both. And that's used in jamming sessions too. Some players will go, oh, it goes like this. It goes down, down, up, down. And they're sharing it with you. So, and that's brilliant. And again, it's quick. The drawback of that is you have to depend on somebody to show you. And they might be wrong. They might show you the wrong thing. So you got to watch out for that. Now, on to reading, which is our focus for today. The shadow side, I'm going to start with the shadow side of it. The shadow side is if you sit in at a jam session, not many are going to sit down and go, oh, Dave has joined. He mainly reads. Let's write out the notation. Let's write out the rhythm for him. Nobody's going to do that. And the other thing is, if you're, like, for example, I've seen this happen in quartets at times, and it's not all quartets, but like, you get so into the reading and everybody's in their page. It's almost like devices in a sense. You could have a bunch of people all just following it. And that works for classical, like orchestras and things. But if there's 4 guitars or a few guitars and everybody's just looking at a page, the more you lean in on the visual, the less you're leaning in on the ear and the following along. So that's the shadow side. But of course there's a light side and there's so many benefits. So one is that I played a musical once and my reading still isn't great when it comes to reading notes on a notation, but today's about rhythms. But I got a piece of work doing a musical, and what happened was I'm sweating over the scores for Elvis, all shook up, and I spent about 2 weeks storming through it. Like, I mean, I was writing stuff over the music like, this sounds like Johnny B. Good. That's how I was working it. Get in, and I'm in the band for the musical, and another musician there, they were an ear player as well, and they'd done the same thing, and like, they had an audio device with them and they'd listened to a bit of the song before we started it. So we're kind of getting by that way, but where I'm going with this is 2 musicians came in and they were seasoned pros at reading, and after spending 2 weeks like sweating it out trying to learn this thing, these 2 guys came in, and I'm not joking, one of them opened the book and said to the other, what musical are we doing? And my ears pricked up. And the other lad goes, all shook up. Oh, cool. They literally had no practice done, and they read through the whole thing, the whole musical, as if you'd be reading words on a page. And my jaw dropped. I was like, wait a sec, all that work for 2 weeks, and these guys just come in and read. Now, that's like reading an entire musical with all the music notes and everything. Today, you're going to learn how to read rhythm patterns. So it's going to be that you'll be able to see things on a page and just read them off it instead of having to depend on your ear or by example. Okay, so then another advantage of this is it's great for learning and breaking down longer and more complex strum patterns. So you can see it all on a page and you can identify the parts to work on. The other part about it is you can revisit old strum patterns down the line. Like, imagine being able to learn a strum pattern and then put it aside, and then a couple of months later, you open up a page and you go, well, how did that go again? And you read it off the page. And I'm not talking about arrows, I'm talking about the actual music notation, like the proper music notes. Okay, so again, it helps and you're going to be fully sure if you're getting it or not. And that is our focus for today. We're going to go all in on reading. If you're interested in there being a masterclass on playing by ear again later, or some ear training, or like, for example, by example, learning how to read off different players online, we can cover that. But today, our main focus is on reading. That is our outcome. Now, why reading rhythm really matters, there are 3 band-aid solutions to be aware of and be aware of. One is having an audio to reference. What I mean by that is, I mean that you could hear something and you could think that you are now reading it, but it's really that, like if I go like this, It's really that if you see that written down, then you already have how it sounds. So you're kind of thinking you're reading it, but your ear is also informing it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Another thing to be aware of is having a video to follow it. So as an example, you could be trying to read and then you could turn around and go, Joe, I'm just going to watch the video real quick and then I'll get back to this reading thing. Again, you'd have picked up a lot of info from the video and then gone back to reading thinking that you're learning how to read. But the reading is actually just confirming what you've learned on the video. And last of all, writing with the arrows in your own style. For example, let's go to the board for this one. So if I was to do this right now and do this. And ask you, how does that go? You can see you get the arrows, but does it go? Maybe it goes. Maybe somebody else might go. See what I mean? The arrows, they tell us what direction to strum. We have a visual guide, but it's missing a lot of info. And then on the flip side, if I was to say, hey, those arrows, it sounds like this. See the way that like there's no confusion there. You hear it, then you go to the arrows and everything makes sense. We want everything to make sense from the get-go, from reading it without having to hear a single thing. Okay, so that's the thing about the arrows. They're all important, but the point of playing is to integrate all three into your guitar playing. We want to be able to read, we want to be able to listen, and we want to be able to look. So we want to build all three of those in and use a blend depending on what we need. So for example, it could be that if you're looking up for a song online, that if you only find a version you can read, that you're okay. If you only find a version where they teach by example, you're okay. If there's one where there's a mix of both, you're okay. So we want to integrate all three. Now, the other thing about reading is the rule of 7 plus or minus 2 comes into effect. This is called Miller's Law. Basically, it states that people can only hold 7 plus or minus 2 items in their short-term memory at any one time. And again, just to drive that home, that is the whole thing around. It's all good if I play this. But if I do a long strum pattern, there's a lot of info there, more than 7 strums, and we just kind of tune it. So there you go. So could you imagine having to learn this by ear? Sorry. I had to read it there. Or you have the option to break it down arrow by arrow, you know, beat by beat. And don't be alarmed if you're looking at this going, I don't know what some of those things mean on that page. Everything in this rhythm is going to make sense by the end of this masterclass. So that's our longer rhythm. And at this stage, I'm going to stop going on about why this is so important. I just really want to share that because there might be party tempted to go, this is all well and good, but you know, I haven't had any major problems yet with my ear, and music is done by ear. Integrate all three. Don't leave it 15 years like I did. So think of 2 different types of paths you can take and the workloads involved. Here's one. One, I would make 5 videos, tutorials or audios of strum patterns with mini lessons breaking down the strum, the count, what arrows to do, but you must listen to them over and over and listen to the song they belong to in a ton to internalize the rhythm. And a year goes by. And if you haven't been playing the song consistently, then you either have to go back and revisit those lessons again and find them, take the lessons again, implement them again, and it takes a while to get things going. That's one path. Okay, it's a lot of work. The second path is, today I teach you how to read rhythms in writing, how to break them down, how to understand them, and I can give you strum patterns literally spelled out in black and white like the music notes. Every step of the way is a yes or no if you're getting it, and 1 month or 1 year from now or 10 years from now, you can revisit that strum pattern in writing and play it near instantly because you're reading it. Okay, all that is possible for just taking time to implement this skill of reading. And why reading rhythm really matters. I remember when I was learning strum patterns for the first year or so, I used to think things like, God, I hope I remember what this person is teaching me right now with this strum, because I won't know it later. Or, you know, I can't be away from my guitar for too long until I have this memorized and it sounds like it's meant to. Or maybe things like, you know, I'm going to have to play the strum pattern a ton in order to memorize it. And even at that, I hope I'll remember it when I get back to the guitar later, tomorrow, or further on from that. And I used to feel like bored as well, because I used to feel like I was playing the same strum pattern again and again and again for a ton of songs. And there's a lot of frustration as well, because I couldn't ever be sure if I was playing it exactly as it was meant to be in the beginning stages. Some rhythms sounded the same to me no matter what I did. And even though I'd follow the arrows that were written for a song or what somebody showed me, I might listen to the song and go, it doesn't sound exactly like it, but what's missing? I wouldn't know. And other things would happen too, where I'd go over to friends' houses and basically, like, I remember one time my friend, he used to live up the road, and he said calling over like 12, and I hadn't a teacher at this stage, and he showed me Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz. He showed me, you can guess the year, Brimful of Asha, and there was another song, Radiohead, one Radiohead song, and he showed all the strum patterns, and like Fly Away goes like this. Something like that. And then the other one was, so he showed them, played them over and over at the house, came home, and I was like, what are those again? And trying to guess, you know, and that's the thing about playing, that's the thing about only playing by ear. Yeah, you can build it up, but the reading, if it was written down, and I could go home and kind of go, okay, yes or no, and then build it, and it goes into the ears anyways. And a quick word on strumming skills as well. Like, this is all about reading here today. There's a small bit of technique thrown in as well, and strumming skills. But if you are there going, I think I need to work on my technique, remember there is the Steady Strumming Foundations course. So you'll find it here in the hub. Basically, you can search for it at the top if you wish, or if you go to your, where is it up here? If you go to the sidebar and you go to Content Library and you go to Skills Courses, and you'll find it there in Strumming. And of course, you can just search. And that's our Steady Strumming. So you'll find your foundations in there. Now, there are 3 rules of crazy effective rhythm reading. These are 3 short guidelines, but they matter a whole bunch. Number 1 is to start simple and practice patience. Think of it like this. Think of it like, you know, reading, how in school you would have begun with the simpler things and then built up to the more complicated piece of reading. It's like that with strumming as well. And the patience piece is around your playing could be far ahead of your reading right now. So when you sit down to read, you could be there going, this is ridiculous. This is so simple to play, but I need to learn how to read it. So just stick with it. Trust the process. The second rule is read the strum pattern first. Figure it out, do the best you can, then listen to a sample to compare. That's just touching back in on the point around you could listen to something and watch it and then read it off the page and think you got it. I literally spent a couple of years playing music notation and thinking I could read it, and it emerged, I was playing in groups, and yeah, sure enough, I was hearing it and I'd play off the page. But then I went to a music course and was in a quartet. Now, for those of you who don't know how a quartet works, everyone has individual pieces. So there's 4 instruments. We all had our own piece of music to read. And I was there and I was playing the line of the person beside me. I didn't even know what I was doing. And the conductor was like, well, what are you doing? He's this Russian dude as well. Like he was quite blunt, but a nice guy. And I couldn't figure it out. And it was then I realized that for a few years I was there and I was listening all around me and I thought I was reading it, but it wasn't true reading. So be careful of that with your playing. Which leads us on to number 3. Continue to read even after you play it. What do I mean by that? I mean this. Can you imagine? Just picture this. Picture that you're reading off something here. I have a page. Okay, so I read a rhythm and I go, okay, so, and we'll... Okay, and then I play it a few more times off the page and then I go... And do you see the way in that moment that like I'm gone from the page? The page is just for a bit of info and then I went. But to really anchor in the meaning of the reading with your playing, continue to look at the page as you play for a while. So that way the ear is starting to connect that when it's written this way on a page, this is what I do on guitar and this is how it sounds. So just keep an eye out for that. So for today's class outline, we have little steps along the way. You see the end is action time. That's the most important piece. But on the way, we're going to be covering the basic music blocks, basic rhythm values, strum patterns, rests, 16th notes, which are a ton of fun, counting methods, the different ways you can count your rhythms on guitar. And there are 3 main ones, and the 5 main formats that you would need to learn them online, be able to read them online, things like YouTube and things like that. And there's ones that you mightn't have thought of, so I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to start with basic music blocks. The first thing I'm going to say is watch, rewatch, and rewind as you need for this section. And the videos, of course, on the platform are all chaptered out, so it's easy to do. So you can kind of click on a chapter just to rewatch. So for example, this could be under the basic blocks of music theory. So we'll begin with some important music terms. One are notes. Okay, think of notes as single strings picked one at a time. That's what you do with your picking, your finger picking pattern, your melody or your riff. So for example, if I did this, even though I have a chord on, that's a single note. It's like a tin whistle or a violin playing a single note as we are on guitar. So that's a note. The next definition are chords. Chords, we're familiar with the word chords on guitar. Those are multiple notes, strings played at once. So this is the sound of a note. Then if I hit multiple ones, that's a chord. And by the way, chords don't always have to be a ton of strings. They can be like 3 strings or 2 strings, you know? So as long as there's more than one. Then, this is the most important one for today, rhythm values. These are written as symbols indicating, hang in there, indicating relative duration, which is a unit of time. Okay, so written as symbols, I'm going to start with that. There are many different symbols for rhythm values. As an example, so if we go to the board, and we'll check this out, we got, like, if I do this, this is your G, that's a chord obviously. But if I do something like this then, that's a rhythm value. There's another rhythm value. There's another one. And these will look quite familiar from like music, things you'd see you can put up on walls and stuff like that. So those ones there are rhythm values. That's what they look like. And they indicate relative duration. Now we're going to cover that. Relative duration, it's dependent on the time signature and the tempo of the song. And we'll be covering what time signatures are and tempos are in a moment. And even though when we listen to music, it seems like it lasts for minutes, like a track could be 3 minutes or it could last in seconds. But we need to think about music differently, in different terms, for understanding it and communication. So if not in seconds, then what? Well, we got to lay down a few foundations for this to go in. So basically the first thing I want to share is about tempo. A tempo in music, that's what basically keeps things steady, simple, and consistent. So a tempo is basically the speed that a piece of music goes. As an example, like dance music would have a faster tempo than slower music, you know? So it's just the word like speed. I'd often use speed in lessons. It's simpler, I find. But tempo is the musical word. So we're going to use that for today. So now we've established the speed. The next thing about it is it's measured in BPM. That's beats per minute. A word on beats per minute. Now, to make sense of this, I'm going to go to a website called songbpm.com. Every song and every piece of music has a BPM. And this website, you can basically look them up and it'll tell you what it is. So if we look up, I just picked Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. Basically, you'll see here, BPM is 160. Now, if you're looking at this going, what is this guy on about? In the Steady Strumming Foundations course, I go in depth on the metronome and BPM. But just know this, that there's a tool you can have on your phone and you can set the BPM. As an example, you can go online. There's apps as well. But if I enter this here, now the volume mightn't play, but you'll see the flash. See that flash? Okay, and volume would play as well if we needed it. Okay, so basically with that, you look up the BPM and now you know what speed the beat goes for the song. Shake It Off is really fast. And DJs use this too, you know. I was sharing yesterday in a lesson that, you know, DJs tend to match BPMs. Like if you have a crowd out on the floor and the music's going like this, if it's going dun, 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 and the next song you put on goes like this, dun, 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 next song goes dun, 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 dun. Like there's too much pushing and pulling of the tempo. So that's why DJs would tend to like pick songs that would go roughly along the same tempo. So I hope you're getting what tempo is. Now we have the BPM, we know it's measured in beats per minute. And that's what you tap your foot to. So after you get that then, you could tap your foot. And that's laying the foundation of everything you're going to build upon for your rhythms on guitar. And a quick word on how the US, Europeans and the world basically name these musical things. There's different words for some of these terms. In recent years with the rise, well not recent years, in the last 15 years, with the rise of YouTube, I do see the American terms being used a lot more widely by everyone because of YouTube and because of instructors sharing them. It's what I use. I just like that system. So if you've grown up knowing the other names, you can use those too. But for today, I'm basically using the US system. So we had our tempo, and now we'll talk about beats. Okay, beats are the most basic type of rhythm. Think of beats as the heartbeats of music. They're like the steady pulse you tap your foot to when you listen to a song. And just like your heartbeat keeps a consistent beat for your body, beats in music help keep things consistent for a song. So it's the basic foundation of rhythms played. And you'll strum, pick or finger pick in alignment with these. In alignment means that when you play, you could be tapping and you might hear this tap, you might not. Like that. Okay. And of course you can play on each beat. But you can also go like, you see they're on top of the steady beat the whole time. The rhythms kept changing. Our foot would never tap that. It would get tired too quick. So that's why the beat is steady and consistent. And we know with the tempo, that the tempo sets the speed that will set the beat for. Okay? So now we know that, and we know that on top of it goes the rhythms. And it's the most basic type of rhythm. So like if you're tapping and you're playing down strums, that's the most basic type of rhythm you can do. And some songs do that. So now we got our beats, we got our tempo. So next up we have bars. Now the thing with bars is as follows. Bars, they're also called measures in the US system, and they're like individual boxes at a time that hold specific numbers of beats. Okay, let's go to the board, right? So we've talked about the arrows here, and we're looking at arrows now going, geez, yeah, they're missing a good bit of info. So looking at it, we could call these individual beats, right? These ones here. And if you saw this on a page, well, you know, yeah, you know the beats, okay? And I could write this here. But it would turn into, like, that's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's only 8 strums. That would turn into such a mess if we kept going without any structure on it. And that's why we divide the beats using these things called bars. So now you see we've structure to it. Okay, so if I go like this. Okay, so now you could have G, you could have C, you could have D, you could have E minor. And the beauty of this is as follows. The bars have numbers, so like 1, 2, 3, 4. And they give structure to things. So if you're playing, now you could look at your playing and go, God, I need to work on bar 3. Or I need to practice bar 3 and 4 this week. And keep in mind, this, if you play this will go by in a blink of an eye. So basically, the longer a piece goes on, if you use bars, it can really, really help sort things out. And again, just taking a look at this example here, and listen, don't worry if you're looking at this going, oh my God, what are all these numbers? What I want to draw your attention to is the bars. And using bars doesn't mean that things get this complicated at all. I just picked Hotel California as an example. But you can see the bars are written there. So if you're practicing, even if it's an easier song, you can now, the farther you get down a piece, the more structure it has. So you can go, I'm going to practice bar 75 to 78 this week. And it makes it easier as well to help players. So if you're there communicating it going, I'm kind of stuck on that song, draw around the middle. Versus, you know, this piece of music here, I'm really stuck in bar 31 and 32. You know, that's the advantage of using bars as well. It stops the music being one big mess. And it also, think of it like books, like go by pages and they're broken into chapters. Well, music can be broken into bars. It definitely makes it more readable. Like a book would not be readable if all the pages were taken out and just spread everywhere all at once. So with music, it goes by faster, so we do it all on one page, but the bars will help. So it's like a container where we organize the beats in music. Let's go to the board and you'll see here that these, in fact, are just the beats, okay? And the BPM, by the way, and I'll just move these down here. The BPM, we could set it to 60, okay? And what that means is, now you could look at this piece of music. You know there's 4 bars. You know you set your metronome to 60, so it might go like this. This is an estimate. And you go G, 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 and so on. And the tempo is not in question. And again, just to go up to the arrows you see here, we've no clue how fast that goes. And like it's missing so much info. So those are our bars. Now, there's one thing missing from that example on the board, and that is the time signature. A time signature is like a recipe for how many beats are in each bar. For example, if the time signature is 4/4, you'll count 1, 2, 3, 4 in each bar. So looking at the board here, you'll see that 4/4 was implied there. The time signature is 4/4 because we had 4 beats written in each bar. And yes, there are other types of time signatures. There's like 3/4, there's 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. For today, we're sticking to 4/4 because there's a whole lot you can learn by just sticking to the 4/4 time signature, 4 beats in the bar, and everything that can be done with rhythm on top of it, reading and playing. And you can also change the bottom number too. For example, instead of 4/4, you could have 6/4, and you can have 6/8. We won't get into the 8th thing at the bottom today. Everything's going to be 4. Okay, so that's our time signatures. Most songs are in 4/4, and that's why we're focusing on it too. Like think of all those Bruce Springsteen songs when you hear him go 1, 2, 3, 4. You never hear him count 6 or like 7 or 5 or anything like that. And as I said, there are other time signatures, but we're focused on reading today, so I'm going to keep this as simple as possible by sharing 4/4. So, a simple test. Let's go to the board a sec. So if I was to go like this, if I was to say, I'm writing out a brand new rhythm for you, and I did this, and I asked, hey, what tempo does this go? Now we know it goes at 90 BPM. You would set your metronome, and the metronome, I'm making up these metronome markings because all my devices are being used for all the recording. But let's just imagine, for not accuracy's sake, that you put the metronome going, okay? And it's like that. Right, so now you know what speed you'd go. And then if I wrote 4/4, that would be how many beats are in each bar. So you could go like this. Okay, and by the way, 4/4 has nothing to do with there being 4 bars here. I just wrote 4 as the example. I'll use 2 for this one. So now you can see that you got the downs. Okay, so they're on each beat. So you'd set your metronome to 90, or whatever the tempo is. And on those clicks, you go dun, 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 dun. Right, so already that is a lot more info than we would have had. And I know the rhythm, you're like, but that isn't a cool rhythm. But keep in mind, we're building these block by block. So without you ever having heard this now, you could look at it and know what tempo to go, you'd know how many beats are in each bar, and you'd also know what to strum. And that's without ever having to hear it. So as a group, if we all met up to play a piece, I could give you like piece of paper out to you, or if you worked on it individually, and we could all play off the same hymn sheet, same rhythm sheet, so to speak. Imagine that scenario compared to the opposite, of where if we met up in a group and I showed it to you by example and it took you a few minutes to get it, and even at that you're kind of going, I think I have it now, but they're playing it a bit differently to me, who's right? And then one person arrives in a bit later and I have to show them, and they're kind of getting it, and then they start playing it and you're listening going, wait, theirs is different to somebody else's, and then another person arrives in later. You know what I mean? It's just versus everyone's on the same page, literally. And if we just go back to the board one more time, there's one other piece of info here I'll just write, that this goalpost symbol is for down strums, okay? And there are general guidelines for strum patterns. As an example, in general, not all the time, in general, we would strum down on these beats. So now that takes care, in case you're looking above going, but that had arrows. So basically that's going to help there as well. All this info just for the price of learning how to read it. So those are your basic music blocks covered. Okay, we had our tempo, we had how to read it, we had the beats, how to strum on each, and bars. Now that that foundation has been set, you're going to begin to get into the basic music rhythms. And this is what really connects up the theory behind the strum patterns, which will be coming down the line. Taking a look at basic rhythm values. The first type of rhythm value we're going to talk about are quarter notes. Now we've already seen a bit of these. If we go to the board, and you'll notice here, you'll see the ones we'd written out. Those were the ones, and of course, these don't look as pretty as the one on the screen, but it's a good idea to draw them yourself as well. So those are our quarter notes, and they're your beats, one beat each, and they usually go on the tick of the metronome. Okay, the tick or the click, whatever the sound the metronome makes. You can get metronomes that make cow noises and duck quacks as well. I just want to confirm that. And then you'd be strumming once on each beat, which would mean you were playing quarter notes. So if we go back to the board and we take a look at this example here, you see here we have the 4 downs on the G. So if the metronome's on, so if I was to use musical terms there, I'm playing quarter notes. And remember with this language of the music, like I'd never say to somebody, I'm playing quarter notes. It's kind of, we play downs, but the naming it helps us know how long they last for. Then we have 8th notes, which are shown as that symbol there. In that example, those are 2 8th notes joined together. So for every beat or tick of the metronome, we fit 2 8th notes in. So if we go back to the board, and I'll draw as an example, there's a quarter note, and you see in that quarter note, we can fit both those 8th notes that I've drawn. Right, and we'll talk about counting them in a moment. So I've freed up a device as well in the meantime. I have Guitar Tuner open on this phone. I go to Tools, which is on the bottom. Then you see Metronome. I enter Metronome. And on the metronome, I have it set to 90 BPM. And see the time signature down there? 4/4. So you hear the 4 ticks. The high tick is the 1, okay? Now, as I said, there's a whole tutorial in Steady Strumming Foundations that goes more in depth on this. But for now, just know that we hear this. And looking at the board, you see we can do, that's our 4 downs. Or we can do this. You see we're fitting twice as many into each beat. And now it sounds like this on the guitar. And we'll turn that off. So now, that's your quarter notes, and the 8th notes are like twice as fast. We're packing twice as many into a beat. Now moving forward, they'll be playing or strumming twice on each beat. Okay? And it's like dividing the beat into 2 faster, shorter sounds. And in the notation that you just saw there, the 8th notes are often connected by a beam, which makes it easier to see like that they belong together and that they're played faster than quarter notes. You see here that beam that connects up both of them. And again, it's basically saying, hey, whatever's connected by this beam adds up to one beat. And in this case, we have our 2/8 notes. I like this bit, the easy peasy pizza approach. So let's take a look at the board here for a second. With our easy peasy pizza approach, if we were to take a pizza, and that is a pizza, I can add a bit of red onto it if we need, for tomato sauce. Okay, it's kind of pink, but anyways, work with me. So, and then if we were to split that pizza into 4 quarters, that's what we get. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, the same pizza can be split into 8/8. And it's the same quantity of pizza, it's just divided up into different amounts. Okay, so the reason I share that one is just because sometimes with all the talks of fractions and stuff, we can kind of flashbacks of maths in school. Happens for me anyways. And pizza, it's a lot easier to understand. Okay, so for each rhythm value, you need to know now what they look like. That's our symbols, how to count them, and we'll get to that in a moment, and what direction to strum them in generally. I say generally because there's general best practices, but there's also exceptions to the rule. So if we go back to the board, you'll see here that, for example, on these ones that we got here, these are down strums. In general, you'd always strum your quarter notes as downs, and in general, you'd always strum your 8th notes as down ups. So that's how we play them. And then how we count them would be, we'd name the beat like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's for our main beats here. And then for the 8th notes, we'd count and in between them. That and is really important because it allows you to know if you're landing your strum on a count. Imagine if you didn't put that in there and you just went 1 and then you strummed here hoping it would land. But when you say it and play it, you'll always be mapping them together. So if we take that first example you see on the board, you'll see that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty okay. The other one then, you would count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and strum 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, I'm saying and I'm playing and it's connecting up. Watch the disconnect if I get this incorrect. Watch. If I go 1 and 2 and 3. You felt that like it didn't fully connect up, okay? So just keep an eye on that. And there is a pro tip with this too. Air strum as you say them. So as an example, all you got to do is like go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that way you can anchor in that count and that strum, even if you have a guitar on you or not. I used to do this like outside of the house, do it in public if you wish, or do it in private, but see what I mean? It's like you're still getting that education and that practice in, even if you don't have your guitar on you. Now at this stage we've covered the basic blocks of music. We had the tempo, which was the speed it went at, that was steady. Then we had beats that went consistently with the tempo. Think of the metronome. The music was divided up into bars, so it was easier to read, easier to take things out and practice them, and it also gave much more structure to it. And time signatures, the 4/4, allowed us to know how many beats were in each bar. And we're sticking to 4 for this one, just for the sake of simplicity. Plus we had the basic rhythm values. We had our quarter notes, those 4 of those in a bar. We had our 8th notes, which were played twice on each beat. And we used our pizza example to help it all make sense. Now with our music theory intact, let's talk strumming. At this stage, you've gotten the tools on how to think about the theory, on how to apply it, and also some of the general guidelines like strum down on the beats and up on the off beats and things like that. But now we're going to talk about the actual strumming of it, the skills and things like that. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are going to hear, that's what they're going to see. Nobody, I don't know, is there any footage on your of Ed Sheeran talking about his strum patterns, like counting out loud and stuff, you know? It's always the end result in the playing that you see and that others will see. So now we're going to map all that to your playing. And that is the next step, strum patterns. Okay, strum patterns. This is how we turn reading rhythm into guitar playing, of course. Generally, strum patterns are 1 to 2 bars in length. Remember from our example earlier, all those bars, they were like entire music pieces. But to use them for strumming now, generally a strum pattern will be like 1 to 2 bars. As I said earlier, the guidelines, we generally strum down on the beats. We generally strum up on the off beats, the ands. But always, there can be exceptions. So with the strum patterns being 1 to 2 bars in length, I just want to share 1 or 2 examples of strum patterns that do this. Here is Flowers by Miley Cyrus. You'll see it's 1 bar in length because it is 4 beats. And again, towards the end, I'll be bringing you through the different formats you can read this in. Right now, you might be looking at this going, wait a sec, where are those quarter and eighth note patterns? They aren't on Ultimate Guitar, but the understanding of how they work, you map onto these arrows. So you'll recognize the count from before. There's our 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 end. And let's just keep in mind, if we look down here at this second strum pattern, because there can be different strum patterns for different sections of songs, that you'll see here we go down on the 1, down on the 2, the second beat, up on the ands, up on those ends, up on that. That holds true to our sort of general guidelines. But if you look at the main pattern, it goes against it. Everything is downs. And like, think of rock. A lot of rock is down strums. So just keep an eye out that you still follow the arrows. But now you could look at that and you know how to count. And you see the BPM there, 118. You set your metronome and you could go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so you see there, got the tempo, counted out loud, played to the count. I hope you're starting to see how this can make so much more sense now with those pieces of info rather than just chancing the arrows. And then if we go down to the second one, we have this. Okay, and I'm counting in my head that time. So then this is the magic easy button here. When you hit play, it shows you what it sounds like and it lights up. Watch this. And just to bring you back to one of our golden rules of reading rhythms. Remember, if you hit play on that and you just watched it along and just followed, it isn't as deep a level of learning as figuring it out on your own first, counting it, and then hitting play to confirm. Just keep an eye out on that. So that's our strum pattern on Flowers, the 2 different sections. You can hit play on them. Now, those were both 1 bar in length. If we go up to Grenade here by Bruno Mars, check this out. This one is a lot longer. See this top one? And it's counted by 8, but really it would be counted like 4 and then you count from 4 again. So just in terms of proper music theory, but it's okay to count 8 if you need to. And again, you can set your metronome to 110 BPM. You can count and then you play along with it. So with this one, if I set it to 110 and I just imagine it goes at this speed, I could count and I'll try and count the 8 with this. I could go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 2 and... See what I mean? See the way the count was mapped to it. And it's a longer strum pattern, of course. Now you will notice down here in this one, even with the 1 and the and, the beats and the ands, there's gaps here where there's 1 or 2 things in between. That's coming up. Those are called 16th notes, so that's coming up very shortly in this masterclass. One other example here of strum patterns would be Riptide by Vance Joy. Again, we have, and you see that thing there, there's a lot of blanks here, so we will fill those in. But look at this, like, there's an 8 count again, 2 bars of rhythm, 4 bars, 4 bars. And of course we have the easy button, which makes everything so easy. So at this stage now we've covered the basic blocks, we've put the basic rhythm values in, and we got the BPM of a song, you set your metronome, and you know how to count the strum pattern and what arrows you strum on each rhythm in general, or how to follow it on Ultimate Guitar. And remember, watch, rewatch, and rewind as you need. And of course, ask if there's anything you're missing. Now at this stage you might be saying, well Dave, what do I do if there's no metronome? What do I do if I'm not near my device, or if I don't know the BPM? How do I work this? Well, there's 3 go-to tactics I use if I don't have the metronome. Number 1 would be to hear the song in your head and tap along and use that to guess your beat and how fast it goes. So as an example, let me see. If I was to do Bruce Springsteen, I'll pick an old Bruce Springsteen song, Born in the USA. And before I play, and just imagine you know the chord, it's A, I'd pause And I think how he sings it. And you'll bob your head along and kind of get it that way. And then you could go. Born in the USA. So now I got my beat. And with that beat going then. Born in the USA. I was born in... Now it's mapped fairly accurately, okay? Hit or miss, like 10 BPM probably, but you get the idea. And of course, what you do from there then with quarter notes and eighth notes, what do you play? Let's presume with this that you know what you're meant to be playing with quarter notes and eighth notes. This is basically around how to set the tempo if you have no metronome. Which brings us to number 2. Here's a song a similar tempo in your head. Now when I say similar tempo, I mean a song that is familiar to you. So as an example, Desperado by the Eagles is nice and slow, and that could be your bass line. So as an example, you could find a song and know that it goes 80 BPM, and you could go, I don't have my metronome. Well, pause then and go, like if it was Desperado, you can pick your own songs for this. Go like, Desperado. So I got that. Now if that's our rough 60 BPM, if I want to go 80, I'd go like, and just try and do it like that. Speed it up a bit. Again, this is like, it's kind of like baking with the, what do they call it, the guesstimates, when you guess things. One trick back in the day when we all used to have watches with the second hand, my music teacher, if she didn't have a metronome beside her, she'd look at her watch and like think about it, 60 BPM, beats per minute. What else goes 60 times in a minute? Seconds. So she'd look at her watch and she'd see it ticking, or the blinks, and then she'd go, okay, that's 60. So if I doubled it, it'd be twice as fast. And she kind of get estimates from there. So that's another cool one. But I have to say, in the days that I'm wearing one of these Whoop things, like there ain't no second ticks on this. Last but not least, you could do a song search for the BPM and find a song that you're very familiar with. So for my example here, I've Googled songs at 80 BPM, and there's a website called jog.fm that I like to use as well. It's pretty good for finding songs for your running, because I heard once a runner talk about, he used to run at songs at a certain BPM and he'd land his feet on the beats, and that would allow him to like know that he was keeping on track. And there was one marathon one time and I was like, I'm going to try that, and tried it on the day, and kind of the musician in me, while it was loading, the musician in me was like, couldn't, like, I was like, I gotta land on each beat, and it was insane. It took like, I think like 20-30 minutes off my run time. It's nuts. Okay. Anyways, okay, so popular running songs at 80 BPM. Now, of course, this is under the guise of running songs, but we'll use it. So if I was doing a song and it went to 80 BPM, and again, this is thinking in your head. This is if you don't have access to the song itself either. So let's just say Under the Bridge goes 82 BPM. Let's call it 80. So now if I was doing a song and I saw on paper without any access to music or any audio stuff, and I saw it went to 80 BPM, I might pause and think of Under the Bridge and go, sometimes I feel like I do, and then base my strumming on that. And you'd be amazed at what some songs like Wagon Wheel and Mr. Brightside are the same BPM. So Mr. Brightside will be going like this. Coming out of my cage and I'll be doing just that. So, rock me mama like a wagon wheel. They're roughly the same. And mostly keep in mind with this that this is tools you can have on you in your mind if you've no access to audio to pull from. So it's a real musician's skill. And I know we're in the age where you're like, but Dave, somebody will have a device, somebody will have Wi-Fi. But learning these musical skills, you don't just get to use them in that scenario. It's being the type of player who can do that. And then you'll unlock other things in your playing as well. Now, here's the thing. As we said there, we're getting into the section here about things that are missing and what to do if it's missing. So more if missing info. We won't always be given everything we need in the strum pattern that's written out on screen. Sometimes we think we will, especially if the website has a lot of reviews and stuff, but it isn't always the case. So sometimes one or more elements will be missing, so we're going to cover that now. So if you're missing the time signature, all you got to do is look at the number of beats per strum pattern. So if we took a look here at Don't Look Back in Anger, you'll see that there's 4 beats written. So that basically means that it's 4/4. And remember then, if you're looking going, but there's 8 in this one, that 8, it really should be 2 bunches of 4. So it's still 4/4. Or you can Google it. So I'm being fully serious here. Google, I learned jazz off Google Images. I'll tell you that another day. And I'll talk about time signature in a moment about Google. And then if you're looking for the tempo, the BPM, you can also Google it. And here's a pro tip. If you search the song name plus the term sheet music and put it into Google Images, you're going to get both. So if I search Wonderwall sheet music here, and of course you can buy them as well. In this case, we're basically just flitting in for the time signature. So we'll take a look. I'm going to click this one. Okay, there we go. So see here on Wonderwall, and remember there'll be a lot of stuff here. You might be like, what is all that? We're not in it for anything else. See the 4/4 there at the real beginning, that's where you'll find the time signature. See the 88 there? That's your metronome, that's your BPM. So you set your metronome to 88 and it's 4/4 time signature. Now you've covered not only how to find and read strum patterns, but also what to do if there are any incorrect or missing pieces of info. And as we said, this is the holistic approach to learning guitar. It's that you know what to do to prepare, but you also know what to do if there's things missing or things aren't as you expected. And there has to be a but here. We don't strum all the time on guitar. We've also got to rest. And that brings us to our next part today. Right, so we've rests. It was Debussy that said music is the space between notes. I thought that was really cool. Because on guitar we can be tempted to like just play and get going all the time, but there are a lot of rests. And the rests, the main term for them, they're intervals of silence in music. And they also have symbols. Like the way we quarter notes and eighth notes, with those symbols for them, we also have symbols for our rests. So we know the difference between a rest and a rhythm value. And every rhythm value has a matching rest. So we've had quarter notes, and there is such a thing as quarter rests. That's where we rest for the same length of time as a quarter note lasts. And these are not always included on strum patterns, especially on ultimate guitar. So let's go to the board for a sec, and you're going to see what a quarter note rest looks like and what an eighth note rest looks like. So on our board here, you'll see we had our quarter note, and we had our eighth notes here. And of course, as we said, those are 2 eighth notes. A quarter note, this is the Dave handwritten version, looks like this. A quarter rest looks like that. And an eighth note rest looks like that. It's kind of like a 7 with a little dot on it. Now, there are guidelines, like I said before, that in the days of YouTube first, my notation writing was all over the place. And you might be tempted, looking at the board here, that for 2 eighth note rests, you go like that. But remember, they're worth 1 beat, and this is worth 1 beat. So technically, you would just write another quarter note rest here in place of these 2. We don't need to write 2 of them down. If we're resting for 1 beat in total, well, we just write that. Okay, so just keep an eye out on that. It's a little bit of nitpicky sort of part of the music theory. It's important, but it's not the end of the world if you do the other one, but just to make you aware of it. So I just pulled this up on Google Images. So basically, you'll see here that we have our quarter note, and just focus with me for now on the quarter note. There are other ones, of course, but quarter note, that's how the rhythm value which we're familiar with looks like. The eighth note, that's what we had. And that weird dash thing I drew earlier, that's what that was. And that's our 7 with the sort of bubble at the front. That's for our 8th rest. Right, so that's how they'd look in proper music notation. And if we take a look here at Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, you'll see here that on the beats we don't play, and on the off beats we play. Now, of course, there are no rest symbols written here, but it's implied. So that's a word on our strum patterns and about the rests. So now we have our quarter notes, our eighth notes, and how to rest on each of them. And again, this is more just for the theory side of things. You'll see on Ultimate Guitar, it won't be implied, and that'll probably be the most resource you're going to be pulling from on guitar as you go along. But it's good to know, especially if you were shown the quote-unquote proper music terminology. And that brings me to this amazing quote by a great dude called Earl Nightingale. Take action, ideas are worthless unless we act on them. I've shared a ton of ideas today, and I know it's been a lot, but it's step by step. And the most important thing as we're moving towards the end of this is taking action and what you'll take action on. And I want to make it as easy as possible on you to know what to do and how much of it to do. So I've put together 7 simple strum patterns in a cheat sheet, and I've attached it to this masterclass. These 7 simple strum patterns are ones that I've given you that are pretty okay to read. You can take them one at a time, read them. Now I'm going to go through the steps on how to use them, and we'll have the action items at the end of the masterclass, but I just said I'd share this now. So the suggested order of steps of this would be: 1, start with the strum patterns that I've provided you with. Think of it like the stabilizers on a bike. So I've come along and I've put some stabilizers on so things can't get too out of hand. So like you've 7 strum patterns, try them out, get steady, and then search some of the suggested songs I'll share in your worksheet. That would almost be like, now I've taken the stabilizers off and I've said to you, hey, this might be a nice place to ride your bike, that if you fall, it won't be the end of the world. So I'm you're edging out yourself, but it's still within the realms of safety and things. And then finally, in like Jack Bauer in 24, I don't know if anybody remember him. He used to like just go mad on his own. He'd go out and go on adventures. Finally, go rogue. Go out and explore the wild, wild web. And be sure you know the community is here for you as well, and I'm here too inside the community to help. So go out as well, try things out, come back and go, hey, what the hell is this thing? Just ask. There's a really insightful doctor that I follow, and he's an amazing quote, and it's: maximum growth occurs on the border between support and challenge. So maximum growth, we're aiming for maximum growth on guitar, and it happens if you were too supported on guitar, like I mean everything was support, 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 you'd never grow enough that once the support was removed, you'd be there kind of going, geez, what do I do? Where's that tool? Or what's that? So that's why, yeah, there's a good amount of support and everything's here for you. But then there's also the side of challenge. And if you were too challenged, if this masterclass was like just I gave you the worksheet and said, go off there and do what you want with it, and you're missing all this support and the resources, like it wouldn't be great either. And that's why the maximum amount of growth happens when you have a nice balance of support and challenge. And I found that's for many things in life, but bringing it back to guitar, keeping it on the fretboard, if you pick too easy a strum pattern or a song, you'll get bored. And by the way, you've probably experienced this yourself. If you pick too easy a strum pattern, you're going to get bored. And you might have felt that already, like, you know, if you're playing the same stuff. And then if you found one online and you're like, what in the name of God is this? You might get frustrated or grow frustrated and you'll give up on it. It'll be too challenging. It'll have been maybe a step too far. That's why we want to find the sweet spot between both. That brings me to this point. So there are 2 ways for you to level up your strumming and your reading. Number 1 would be you'd play a longer but less tricky strum pattern. Think about like one of the ones that had the 8 beats written there, basically the 2 bars of 4. The second way you can do it is play a shorter strum pattern, but it's trickier. It could be faster, there could be more arrows in it. So here's one example. If you're to level up with that, that's pretty long. And then the second one, and by the way, watch out as well, the size thing, the perception on this it might make one look bigger than the other. So the one on the bottom here, you see there that would be a shorter count. The one above would be a lot longer, of course. So again, you could experiment with these. And now, you'll have noticed throughout the masterclass, this has started to creep in a bit. Arrows that aren't written on top of anything. So we're going to get to that. So at this stage, we've done the basic music blocks, the basic rhythm values, or quarter, eighth notes. We've done the strum patterns, how they look, how to say them, how to play them, general best practices. Rests, basically what to do at the times that you're not strumming. Now, that brings us to our third last point here, 16th notes. And those were the gaps that are appearing in the rhythms earlier. So a word on 16th notes, we're going to start again by making a pizza. So if we go back to the board, we'll draw our pizza. Okay, so now we got our 4 pieces. We got our 8. And now we got our 16ths. And this is where my drawing is going to be all over the place. But hopefully you get the idea. Oh God. Okay, so there we go. We have our 16th pieces. 16 pieces. Right, so you can see them all around there. Again, this is just to show that in the one beat, you can have 4 pieces of rhythm in the one beat, you can have 8 pieces, or you can have 16. I want to share this video here with you. This was an Ed Sheeran lesson I did before. And again, if you look here, and by the way, remember that there that I'm hovering over, that's a quarter note, of course. The single beam here is an 8th note. And then, do you see this double beam here, the double black line? That is a 16th note. So if we go back to the board, quick recap, you see that there, it's the 16th or the 4, and the double line there is key to signal that is a 16th note. And all these happen on the one beat. And I'm going to put this playing for a second. And again, you can hear something that fast. Those are 16ths. And you might be wondering, does it get any faster than this? Like, fitting 16 pieces of rhythm in one beat is fairly insane. And the answer is yes, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to share a video here that's a 30-second note. And a 30-second note, you see it's signaled here by, see the 3 lines. Now, this is by a guy called Steve Vai. I'm going to put this playing, and again, you'll see why we're not going to touch 30-second notes. Okay? It just sounds like, so we don't need that. So we're going to go back to 16th notes and stay there. And remember, with rhythms, you've got to know what it looks like to recognize the symbol. You've got to know how to count it, and you've got to know general guidelines on how to strum it. So we've identified them by the names. We've had our quarter, our 8th, and our 16th notes. You know what the symbol is like for the quarter note, the 8th note, and the 16th. And if we go to the board here real quick, that's the double one. Okay, and general guidelines on how to strum it. We said that the quarter notes were generally downs, the 8th notes are generally down ups. These are generally down up, down up. So now we know again, and again, this kind of goes back to the whole thing. The faster you go, the more you definitely need to go down and up to keep things moving. And the count. We said that we'd count that first beat back at the board here. We'd go 1. This would be 1 and. Now, this is the weird one. 16th notes are counted 1 E and A. 1 E and A. And remember, with all these rhythm values, the only thing that would change is the number at the beginning, depending on what beat you're on. So these are first beats. So if these happen on, like for example, I could draw this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I could go 1, 2, and that's our quarter note, 3, 4, and these might look familiar. But then if I go here, 1, 1, 2 E and a, 3, 4. So you see the way we count these now. And by the way, if I was to do this, if I drew this out, what would you say here? If you said and, you are correct. Okay, so all the extra stuff won't change, but what's important is that we number the beat we're on. Now, how to play that? So let's just imagine I'm saying 1 E and a. I could go like this. So counting it then, one thing is generally rhythms won't kick off really fast like that. 1 E and a. Usually the first beat is pretty steady. So it could go 1, then 2, and 3 E and a 4. So I'd strum 1, 2, and 3 E and a 4. Right, so see the way? And again, it's important that you will need to practice saying these as well as playing them. The saying them is important too, because we're not used to saying 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. We're used to saying numbers. We're used to saying maybe 1 and 2 and, but those ones are the ones that need the most work. Which brings us to counting methods. There are 3 popular ways to count rhythms. Number 1 is fruit syllables. Stick with me a second. For example, with this, you're sounding out the name of how the rhythm goes. So pair would be 1 beat. That's our quarter note. So I could go pair, 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 pair. Basket is our 1 and 2. So if we go to the board here, that example I wrote here, the one with the quarter note, 2 8ths, and these two quarters, you could go pair, basket, pair, pair. See what I mean? And now the beauty of this thing is that you know how it sounds. You know, and this one down here would be watermelon. So you go pair, watermelon, basket, pair. And the great thing about this is these are names that are very familiar with you already. So you don't need to do too much thinking about how does it go. Next up, we've the Takadimi system. This follows the same principle. Now, instead of saying pair, you'd say ta. Instead of basket, you'd say tadi. And instead of watermelon, you'd say Takadimi. So going back to our board here, now we'd have ta, we'd have Takadimi here on the tuianda, tadi, ta. And I get that that is definitely a stretch beyond our normal familiarity with language like pair and basket, like ta and tammy and Takadimi. So a reason you might want to use this would be for faster pieces. If you were to say rhythms to yourself, it's easier to go Takadimi, 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 Takadimi than go watermelon, 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 watermelon. And finally then we have regular everyday counting, which is our 1, 1 and 1 ianda, which we've covered already. So you see we spend most of today in our regular counting. So counting our 16th notes now in this section, you have 1 ianda, also known as whatever beat you're on. So it could be 2 ianda, 3 ianda, 4 ianda. And if you're having difficulty, I'd recommend starting with the fruit syllables. So watermelon. It's said exactly as you'd play it. Then you can move on to Takadimi if you wish, and then go for the 1 ianda. The thing about the 1 ianda is, this is the real music language, let's say, to communicate with. Like, not that there's anything wrong with the other one. I still use fruit. Like, think of turning around to a guitar player and saying to them, watermelon, watermelon, basket, pear, versus saying it goes 3 and a 4 e. See what I mean? And there's no harm starting with fruit. To this day, I still use a mix of all three to communicate and to teach and to learn. So as we're wrapping things up, 3 key points on 16th notes. One is your ability to play them relies heavily on your strumming skills. These go so much faster. Like when you think about quarter notes, then eighth are like twice as fast. Then these are like twice as fast again. So there's a lot more fit into a beat. And that's why you got to watch out. So if you're struggling with like playing 16th notes in the first place, I would practice that for a while before I'd start like counting them and playing them. And your action items will be step by step, so don't worry. You'll know how far to get. And then when you hit the wall, you'll know what to do from there. The next point is, remember, you're building your reading skills as well as your playing skills. So even if you've made sense of a strum pattern, especially 16th notes, read it often so you associate the symbols with the sounds. That's like the example earlier. Remember when I looked at the page and I played a bit and then I came, that's fine, I got to know up in my head, and I looked away and it was all gone back to my ear. It wasn't me still linking it to the page. So be sure with 16th note patterns that you still look at the page as well. And you'll know you're getting the reading correct when you can read 16th notes at the same level of familiarity as you know that a quarter note is a simple down strum. So that if 16th notes were put in front of you, that it wouldn't be any more difficult than quarter notes were put in front of you to play. That's when you know that you're really getting into the reading of them. And you must continue to count out loud for clarity. I know you're like, Dave, seriously, you keep reminding us, but it's so important. I've seen it happen so many players again and again and again. Because remember, if you're having a problem with the strum pattern and you're not counting, how do you know if you're going to get it right or not, other than play it again and kind of listen and hope it's okay? So playing the 16th notes, you will be kept busier with your playing, and it will be tempting to focus on the playing and count later. We want to count at the same time. Now at this stage, we've done the basic blocks of rhythm notation, the beats, the bars, the time signatures. We've done the 3 main rhythm values, your quarter notes, your 8th notes, your 16th notes. You know how to recognize them on paper with the symbol there. You know how to read them. You know how to count them with our 3 methods. And you know how to play them using the best practices for downs and ups. And the 3 most popular ways, just to recap real quick since that was the newest piece, are fruit syllables, our Takadimi, our numbers. And we got 16th notes on steroids. There's another tip here. And Hulk Hogan recently came out and admitted he used steroids all throughout the 80s. So This is nothing slanderous here. And here's the thing, you can remove parts of rhythms. Now to share this, I'm going to sketch it out. So we're going to go to the board, and when we think about the rhythms we've had so far, you'll see that we were always doing something. So we could have these four here, the four quarter notes. That was always doing something. We could have this one here, where we had the quarter note, the 2/8 notes, the quarter and the quarter. You see, we're always doing something. Now, as we said, there's times in music that we rest. We rest with our rhythm. And you've discovered that ultimate guitar doesn't factor in rests. And the reason I'm bringing up rests at this stage in the masterclass is because when we have our 16th notes, they go so fast. And when you think about your rhythms, you wouldn't be playing 16th notes over and over and over and over. Okay, the sun has come out here, so I'm going to draw this a second. It's rare I need to draw the curtain, but it'll just help with the light. So with your 16th notes, of course, there are songs like, if I went like this, you might recognize this one. You know, if I played a couple of funk chords with 16th notes, you see it's on the go all the time. But on acoustic, starting out with some of the more detailed strum patterns, there will be 16th rhythm values in there, but they won't be played all of the time. Take a listen if it's your G chord. You might be hearing the 1E and the 2E and the 3. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the... You see, it's like, it's on the go all the time. But it might go like this. You can hear at the end of that, you'll hear the 1E, the 4E and the 4E and the. But the other things I'm playing leading up to that, there's also bits of 16th notes put in there. We're just not playing them all the time. So how that looks on paper matters hugely. So we're going to go to our screen here, and if we go back to the rhythm example we had earlier, do you remember when I was saying that, see the way there's nothing written under that? Well, the thing about this is that you have 1 and 2 and you see these double barred lines, like we said, those are our 16th notes. So those gaps there between the 1 and the and, that's your E. So it's 1 E and A, 2 E and A. See where it's going? So that means that you could say A there, count it out, 2 E and A, and strum up as you say A. Now you know exactly how to count it. This sun is getting ridiculous, but anyways, it's Ireland. I'm not going to complain about it. So let's take a look at this section here. So how I would count this, and I'm just going to get a regular A minor chord, and I'd count it like this. I'd go 1 E and A, 2 E and A. So see the way I mapped it there. So we had 1 E and A, 2 E and A. And again you could go 3 E and A, 4 E and A. And it's just counting it out. If we take a look at this strum pattern from earlier as well, you'll see here, now you're starting to notice the gaps there between the numbers and the ands. That's where you'd fit your E and your A. I don't know why Ultimate Guitar doesn't put this in, but we just need to put it in ourselves. So 1 E and A, 2 E and A. And you'll notice again, it's on the A. There's a lot of common rhythm patterns you start to notice. So what you could do with these is, when you see them online, you'll notice by the double bars, they're 16th notes. And that flips our brain onto, oh, we're counting E and A's. And you don't always have to count. There's an important distinction. You don't always have to count all the bits of the rhythm, like the 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. In general, I would count as much as I need to use. So, meaning that here, I would count 1 and 2 E and a, 3 and 4 E and a. I'm just counting one and here because I'm doing nothing on E's and A's here on those sections. But on these ones, I will label it all out. 2 E and A. Right, and that can make it a lot easier for you to play it and go, okay, so I just need to count that bit there and play on that piece. So for the second part of our rests, don't chance it. Don't chance just saying, it's only a small gap there, I won't count it. I often share the whole thing of chancing it is almost like if you picture that long rhythm you saw on screen, and if you picture it would be like a horse going over, doing show jumping, going over fences. Well, you know, like if they stumble on the first fence, they'll be a bit shaky sometimes on the second fence. By the time it comes to the third fence, they might like burst right on through it. With our rhythms, you want to be solid every step of the way. So if you're chancing bits and it's a bit unsteady on the 1 E and A piece, by the time you get to the second beat, it might be shaky. Third beat, something will happen. You know, so what you want to do is keep it steady, and the way you do that is count it as you go. Second thing is, the faster the strum, the more important the count is for that strum. Because our ear, as we said, only has limited bandwidth, so if it goes really fast, we have a harder time tracking it by ear. So make sure you're counting. And the spaces are where counting matters the most. The spaces on Ultimate Guitar that have nothing written on them. And if you are looking for some extra credit here with the work, one thing you can do is write the strum pattern out for yourself on paper. Right? It's been shown, especially in the age of technology, you know, we type so much and everything, but it's been shown that things go in a lot more into our minds and our bodies and everything when you write it out on paper. So you could write the strum pattern out for yourself on paper and say it to yourself like it's a bunch of lyrics. Terrible lyrics, but lyrics. So, for example, if I was learning this right now, that rhythm I played, I could go, when I'm away from my guitar, I could go like 1 and 2 E and A, 3 and 4 E and A. I have the ability to practice that count anywhere I go. And then when I come back to my guitar, I've done a lot of heavy lifting with the count. And then when I sit down and play, that bit's so solid that I can put all my energy and focus into actually strumming it and mapping it. Not remembering what to count, not remembering how to count, not wondering if it's correct or not. Okay, so say it to yourself like a bunch of lyrics. And the other thing you can do is tap it out on a desk or something like that. Well, with safety in mind, like the steering wheel of a car could work too. So for example, I could go like this. I could go 1 and 2 E and A, 3 and 4 E and A. And again, now it's gone from the spoken to connecting into a rhythm. And you can try your air strum too. So those are 3 things you can do outside of actually being near your guitar at any stage to just really check. Like when I was in school, there would be times I used to, like on the back of my copy, I used to write out rhythms and just write them out and kind of go, is that how it looks? And that testing of being away from a guitar to validate things and just write things out and check them, put a lot more thinking into if things were correct. Then I could say them, I could tap them, you know, so that's a little thing you can try. And there is always another level you can go. So if you want to go a bit crazier, what you can do is as follows. So there's a website called SoundSlice, and you can write your own guitar tabs with the free plan. Now, of course, they'll ask you to upgrade and stuff, but with the free plan, you should be able to make your own. So if we look here, and all you gotta do is type a number here. Okay, so if I do this, okay. So you see here, it was set to 4/4, and we had a quarter note, a quarter note, quarter note, quarter note. And the cool thing about SoundSlice is you can hit play and it'll play back what you just did. Okay, you can hear that's a fast BPM, fast tempo. Down here, you can change it. Now, if you do want a whole run through on how to work this thing, I can create a training, no problem. So we get this. And then what you can do is you can create quarter notes, and then you can create our good old 16th note. See them here? And even if you hover over it, calls it a 16th note. Okay, so we could do this. Okay, I'll just put this playing real quick so you can hear it. And I'll set it at 90 BPM. Here we go. Now you can see here before I hit play, we'd be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 E and 3, 4. Okay, let's test it out. Alright, so you can have good fun with this. And that website is called soundslice.com. Okay, so just check out the free plan there. And that brings us to our last section, the 5 main formats you can read rhythm in online. So the 5 formats, the main ones that we could read rhythm in, one is through a book. So as an example here, if I like, and sheet music would be the term you could search for. So if you bought a book in a store or if you ordered it online, it would look like this. Now, as you can see, if you haven't played classical or another instrument, there's a ton of info here that you mightn't want to engage with straight away. So that'll be the thing to watch. But again, just sift through and look for the bits of info here. There's your 88 BPM, your 4/4, and you'll see there are some quarter notes, eighth notes there, and 16th notes there. Okay, so you can see that it's there, but it is a ton of info. So I'm not really a fan of going for that one straight away. It's almost like in school with maths. Do you remember the way if you opened your book and you might open the back pages of the book and see the craziness that was on the way, but you always started at the beginning of the book where it made sense. So I'd leave that one to the last if you wanted to tackle it. The second one is YouTube. And looking at YouTube, you see here on my own channel and many other channels, this sort of notation is written. It's a bit more straightforward. And remember, just because it's written this way doesn't mean it'll always look this complicated. I have tons of tutorials with easier examples, and many of the other channels do too. And they may appear different across different channels. So as an example, how I have mine written might look slightly different to another channel's. And then if you get used to my channel and another channel, another teacher you might find online of a song tutorial, and you might go, this isn't written like, it doesn't display the exact same, but look for the common things again. You look for the single strokes, the joined things for the eighths, and the double barred line for the 16ths if you need them. And you also have the tips in this masterclass on what to do if there's missing info. So everything is covered. Now the next one is Songster. Songster is a website that is definitely getting more popular. It's used a lot for electric guitar, but very valid for acoustic too. And this is how Songster looked. And again, it's kind of like the book format where there's a ton of info, but the advantage of Songster is you can hit play and there you go. And they've actually made it so it hooks in with the tab now. So the original song will play as the tab rolls. So that's pretty cool. And there are extra features, but you do need to upgrade for them to like loop sections of it and practice it and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool. Even the basic version is good. And again, a quick little word on that. Songster doesn't always look this complicated. You can find other ones as well. So those are books, YouTube, a Songster, which is very similar to the book, but a lot more interactive. And then we have Ultimate Guitar. And today we went into a lot of Ultimate Guitar because it is the main one. I find it to be the best source of free online song chords and tabs and everything on the internet. And again, that'll be the main, it's always written that way. If we look across, arrows, numbers, BPM, and of course some missing info there that you now know how to fill in. Then we've standard notation tabs. Okay, there's an app called Guitar Pro, and I'll save you time by just saying that Guitar Pro, the way it works, it's an application for computers, and Soundslice, which I showed you, is basically like the online free version of Guitar Pro. So we've that covered as well. Now, a lot of your guitar playing life will revolve around YouTube and Ultimate Guitar. The others are good. I dipped, like the standard notation one is really good for like training yourself on how to write, like the Soundslice example. And the books are useful if you like to have a physical copy, or if you cannot find a proper tutorial on YouTube, Ultimate Guitar or Songster. Now that is really rare. Usually these three have things covered, but the book, back in the day, the record labels used to license the music to companies that would write out the tab of the music and you'd go and buy the book. Like in my local city here in Galway, I remember spending £30 back €4 on a Van Halen book because like the internet, 2001, wasn't that great. There was no video stuff online, and this was the real source of it, right? So if you're into some really older music, you might have to get a book. You'd find it on eBay and things like that. So the big question is, how are we doing at this stage? Let's step back, have one final recap, and talk next steps. And it's at this stage, I just want to share the importance of the watch, rewatch, recap, revise, that, and also all of us are so different. Like that classic thing of like two people could see the same accident or the same incident or event and carry very different meanings from it due to our perception and everything. Well, when it comes to learning guitar, you're watching this right now and your own takeaways could be similar or very different to another student who's watching it. So by sharing your takeaway inside the community, basically you could wake somebody else up to something that was in the masterclass that they missed, that was really important. Or if you share it and other people chime in going, yeah, that was my biggest takeaway too. Any future students down the line or any current students come in and go, wow, that thing really mattered about that masterclass, and it really helps them know what to focus on. And it helps me as well to know how to serve you better and teach better by including things that are more relevant and what you find interesting. So with that being said, all you gotta do is share your biggest nugget inside the community, and we're going to use #nugget. So when you check the community, all you gotta do is search the word nugget and you're going to find students' biggest takeaways inside the community. All right, so that's really important. So that's my first action item for you and my first challenge for you. Share your biggest nugget right now inside the community. And that leads us into action time. So, next steps. Please ignore the fact that that hand there on the screen is not making, I don't recognize that card. So, tap into the power of community. Share your biggest takeaway using #nugget. Download the worksheet attached to this masterclass and follow the action items for your specific stage. When I say stage, I'm specifically talking about our journey map here at the School of Guitar. So there are 5 stages identified to going from being an absolute beginner on guitar up to being a guitar whiz, being able to like join in with jams and sing-alongs and everything like that. And the 5 stages, we have acoustic apprentice, open chord champ, song scientist, skills specialist, and guitar whiz. And remember with these stages, it isn't at stage 4 that you're expected to be specialized in all the skills. It's that this is your primary area of focus. That's what you're specializing in now. And of course, as with every stage, you can dip between them, but there are milestones and action items for each step. So as you see here, we have our 5 stages and there's key milestones to meet for each step, and each milestone is made up of action items. And if you haven't done already, you can find this inside the school platform by clicking the hamburger menu whether you're on mobile or desktop and clicking in on your guitar journey. When you click in there, there'll be an assessment for you to take. It's basically the questions that if you're coming here for one-to-one lessons with me, I'd ask you to get a sense of where you are in guitar. You answer those questions and then it's displayed what stage you're at on guitar. And with that then, you'll be given your checklist with the milestones to reach and the action items. And depending on what stage you're at in the journey map, you'll have different action items to follow in the worksheet. So for example, if you're acoustic apprentice, you won't be touching 16th notes straight away. You'll be getting the steady beat and things like that. Whereas if you're a song scientist, you might be looking at finding songs that contain more detailed strum patterns to try now. Or skills specialist, you could be working on playing faster or playing more 16th notes. So there's going to be something in there for you no matter what stage you're at. And that today was reading strumming patterns. We had our basic music blocks, the basic blocks of theory, our basic rhythm values, quarter notes and eighth notes, how to strum them so you can apply them and what to watch out for, what to do if there was rests, gaps in the strum pattern, 16th notes, how to recognize them, how to understand them, read them and play them. Counting methods, we had our fruit syllables, our Takadimi and our one-iandas, and the 5 formats in which you can find them: books, YouTube, Ultimate Guitar, Songster and standard notation. And then of course, action time. And that about wraps up reading strum patterns on guitar in this masterclass. Now, there are other rhythms out there. There are other things to consider, but by using what you've learned in this masterclass, you're gonna have all the basic foundations to build your rhythms, expand your strum patterns, and use them in a ton of songs. And hey, if you do want to do like a reading strum patterns part 2 for other rhythms, let me know. Give me a shout in the community, drop me a message. But for right now, your job is to take all this info, put it into the ears, put it into the hands by following the action items that you'll find in the worksheet. So I want to finish by saying thank you, thanks for paying attention, thanks for your time. Put it into action and I'll see you inside the community. And I can't wait to see you put this to use in your songs and your skills. See you next time.